And now for the 2014 Oxi Day Award. If I can ask you to watch the video screen, here's a very short video on the basic story of Oxi Day. The purpose of all of these Oxi Day activities is to keep America and the world from forgetting and to help put into perspective the virtual evil incarnate in World War II that these people here helped defeat.
At 3 a.m., the Greek Prime Minister receives a call. That was essentially a request that Greece surrenders. The Greek Prime Minister considered this message and he said, "Ochi, no, this is going to be war." Within a few hours, they were crossing the Greek border. The Greek troops not only held their ground,
but they pushed the Axis powers back into Albania.
They inflicted a wound on the Axis forces that moved President Roosevelt to say, when the entire world had lost hope, the Greek people dared to question the invincibility of the Nazi monster, rising against it the proud spirit of freedom.
Were not for the Greeks, who knows what would have happened? Who knows what the outcome would have been?
And now, to recognize the 2014 Oxi Day Award recipient, James Foley, is the person who nominated him, former President Bill Clinton.
Today we honor James Foley with the 2014 Oxi Day Award for his courage and his values in defense of peace, liberty, and freedom. As a frontline journalist, he took on the important job of shining a light on some of the darkest parts of the world. He was a voice for so many who had been silenced, and he fought always to bring us the truth. He represented hope in a time and place of so much despair. Just as the Greek Prime Minister in 1941 answered the Axis forces' request for surrender with one word, ohi, or no, James Foley said no to the forces of destruction, division, and domination. His life is a model of what a 21st century citizens ought to be. And now it's our turn to model his story, to share it with others. No one is more deserving of the 2014 Oxi Day Award. And I thank you so much for honoring his memory.
Please welcome the parents of the 2014 Oxi Day Award winner, Diane and John Foley.
Thank you all so very much. We particularly want to thank Andy and Mike Manados and the Oxi Day Foundation for recognizing the need to remember people of courage and to remember our history, and so that we can go forward. And also to remember how important values are, to remember that goodness matters. Our son Jim, you know, to me was just my beloved son. It's only really been in the last few years that we've come to know the man he became. He was the oldest of our 5 children, and we were often very busy with the little ones while he was off doing his thing. And Jim started off actually in Teach for America, teaching youngsters in inner city schools. And that is where he, I really think, began to really know that there were a lot of people in this world that needed help. And so he spent several years doing that, but then missed writing, so went back to get a degree in writing, and finally found that he really didn't want to do fiction at all. He really wanted to write real stories about people who were in conflict. And that is when he became a journalist. He'd only been a journalist for 6 years, and but had gone into the most dangerous countries in the world. He had been to Iraq and Libya, where he was detained for 44 days. He was imprisoned there. And then went on to also Afghanistan, and then these past couple of years, Syria. He had grown very fond of the Syrian people, was very touched by their warmth, and he really felt their courage and their deep desire for freedom. And he was also touched so much by the suffering of the youngsters that troubled him so much that he at one point got his colleagues together to raise money for an ambulance in Aleppo, because it saddened him to see children being brought in parents' arms or wheelbarrows to the hospital. It was just, it's suffering we really can't imagine here in this country. So, but when I really felt Jim grew into this philotimo, as you say, was when he was in captivity. Jim was held for over 20 months and held with 18 other Western journalists. We only found this out recently. But he was tortured and punished and starved, and mostly for being an American. He really endured incredible suffering. But in the midst of the suffering, the freed hostages speak to us of Jim's goodness, how he would try to make sure, well, he was a peacemaker. He was one of the few they all got along with. And how Jim tried to, you know, help them all recognize that their being mad at each other wasn't going to accomplish anything. He also tried to get them to share food with one another because they were hungry. And some, you know, found that very difficult. And Jim has a real, he always loved life and loved to read. And so he and some others got the captives giving lectures to one another. Jim gave lectures on American literature because he loved to read so much, whereas others did others. And they played games and did whatever they could to keep sane. So we really, Daniel, one of the most recently freed Danish hostages, told us that Jim was pure goodness. And that just really meant so much to me as a mom, you know, that even in that dark hole, thanks to the prayers of so many, that Jim was able to reach deep and be a bit of goodness and light in that area. So I just thank you. I thank you all for recognizing that. I feel our country and the world desperately needs real heroes. You know, we really need people who value decency, courage, you know, and just plain goodness. So I heartily thank you. I thank you, Andy. Thank you.
shouldn't have let Diane go first. I think courage is hard to define. I think we all want to be courageous, and we think we might be, but you don't know until you are tested. But one of the other parts of courage I feel after thinking about it is love. I think most people who are courageous love, and they're courageous for others. And tonight, hearing the word philatimo really describes Jim to a T. He doesn't have any Greek blood, but he really, in my mind, demonstrated philatimo. And his life challenges us. We can't let his death be in vain. We're starting a foundation in Jim's name, and there are a lot of things that we want to do. We want to help other hostages and hostage families find their way through all the government entanglements and to feel supported and assisted in hopefully releasing their loved one. We want to improve government communication between hostage families on an accountable, regular basis with real information. And quite honestly, we want to stimulate the discussion, open discussion, international discussion about the policies of non-negotiation and ransom payment. We have become such dear friends to the released hostages. They are like our brothers at this point. So I don't regret one moment that these young men are home, working with their families, etc. But I do miss Jim, and I do miss the other Stephen Sotloff, Alan Henning, David Haynes. These were equally wonderful human beings, and the world is going to miss them. So I think we really need to have a serious discussion to review these policies. Are they the right thing to be doing at this point in time? This issue of kidnapping is not going to go away, and I would hate to see other young men and women sacrificed arbitrarily based on a policy that may or may not have current value. Again, I can't express in deep enough words the honor we feel in accepting this award for Jimmy. He would have been so proud to be here, and we're proud as his parents to accept this award. Thank you very much.